Okay, my space. Okay. Okay. Everyone remembers quarantine. We would sit around, laze around all day, doing nothing. Sleep late, wake up late, go to our online classes, and not pay attention. Most of us fell into two categories. Either you'd binge your shows or anime all day, or you'd grind video games with your friends all day and night. Personally, I fell into category 2. The game I played back then a lot was called Sea of Thieves. Have you ever heard of it? It's a game clearly about being a pirate at sea. Now, my many hours of this game, I witnessed many things, from sea creatures to giant sea monsters. But there was always one sea monster that terrified me the most. That was the Kraken. The Kraken is a sea monster that would grab your ship and not let go no matter its size. It would spread black ink all over the ocean around you, and it would turn the music from a cheerful to a terrifying instrumental. If all this checked out, you were in for a fight with the Kraken. Now in this presentation, I'll be going over some brief history of the Kraken. I'll then go over some folklore on how this terrifying Kraken turned into folklore, some witnesses and accounts, and a real-life Kraken that exists in our waters today. Now, to start off with a brief history. The Kraken is said to be a squid massive in size, towering over even some of the biggest ships back then, and having so much strength that it could pull down those massive ships to the bottom of the ocean. It is said to be similar to a cephalopod and existed in the Norwegian waters. Now, as for its origins, it is said to be originated from sailors' superstitions. Something they saw terrified them so much that they made exaggerated accounts on what they saw and said there was something out there dragging the ships down, which later then spread to Norwegian folklore. Now, the very first accounts of the Kraken were made by a man called Francisco Negri, which was later then expanded on by a man called Hans Egede, which went into detail saying it was massive in size and big in strength. But the real credit goes to a man called Erik Pontoppidan, who was a Danish author and most importantly, a man from Norway, where the Kraken is said to have originated. He said it was massive in size and big in strength. And since he was from Norway, he had a lot of credibility. Now, why were people so scared of the Kraken? If there were so many accounts on it, and so many witnesses, and so many sightings, you think people would know where to avoid, what to do if they saw it. Well, asking somebody back then why they were scared of the Kraken is like asking somebody nowadays why they're scared of death. It's just common sense for them back then. But the real root cause for their fear is their deep-seated fear of the ocean. Back then, the 1300s, 1800s, the ocean was unknown. They didn't know what was out there, what was under the waves. So the thought of a giant squid that could swallow whole ships wasn't so far-fetched to them. Now, after so many witnesses and so many accounts of it, was there actually any sightings of it, or was it just made up to terrify the folks of Norway? Well, in my many research and search of the Kraken, I could never really come up with any solid evidence. There was really no real sightings of it. The only things I could come up with were exaggerated accounts of which I think were of the giant squid, which exists, which I'll get to later. But in the 1300s, there was a sailor who said he saw a giant tentacle reach out from under the ocean and grab a ship and drag it all the way to the bottom of the ocean, which gave some credibility back then, but nowadays, with so much scientific evidence, it's not really so much credible anymore. Now, as I get back to my point about the giant squid, it is said that back then, exaggerated accounts of the kraken could really have just been exaggerated accounts of the giant squid. The giant squid is it was introduced in 1925 and named, and it's rarely seen by humans and only luckily seen in deep sea expeditions or washed up on shores which are ill or dead, and they are said to exist in the millions in deep sea oceans. They grow up to 33 to 43 feet, with the biggest one being 43 feet long and the longest thought one being 63 feet long. So it's not very complicated to see how they were so afraid of these things. Now, with the knowledge of the giant squid, it's not so hard to believe that these sailors and mariners were so afraid of them, as they were unknown to them back then, and seeing something that's 43 feet long, possibly at the top of the ocean, reaching for your ship, could be pretty terrifying to them. So as I wrap up this presentation, I just want to go over some quick points again on the kraken. First, we talked about some history on it and how it originated, how folklore really is just people being scared of the unknown ocean, and witness testimonies, and how really it was just people being unknown, people being afraid of the unknown, and the giant squid. But to go over my points again, Eric Pontoppidan, most likely his first accounts were really just the first accounts of the giant squid, and the folklore that people were so terrified of was people just being scared of the ocean. So remember, if you're ever out in the ocean, remember that giant squids exist, and the biggest one is 63 feet long. But don't ever underestimate their fact that they can grow.